Joining us now is Mark Yancey, a Republican running for the United States Senate. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first obvious question is, why are you running? Because many people would see that there's an incumbent Republican right now.
Right. So I've spent 33 years in the private sector, and we've created hundreds of well-paying jobs. I want to take that same concept to Washington. We fervently believe that Washington is broke. It is so politically charged. Nothing's being accomplished up there. And we think John Cornyn is a big part of that. And I've been watching that for some time. I'm not a politician. I've spent, just like you have, and the other 28 million Texans. I've worked my entire life. I'm 62 years old, and it's something needs to change.
So Cornyn does have kind of the support of President Trump and the GOP party establishment. What is he doing specifically that you don't like?
Well, here's number one is I won't be defined by this job. I've had 3 successful businesses that I've sold. If I'm lucky enough to get through Super Tuesday, so be it. I'm all for term limits, so I believe that in any capacity in Congress that there should be term limits, and that people should be termed out. And so this job, if I'm lucky enough to get through it, it won't define me, and if I don't get it, it doesn't mean anything to me either. John Cornyn is first of all has extraordinarily low polling in the state of Texas, somewhere in the 35% range. Secondly, is John. No one knows how Cornyn votes until leadership tells him how to vote. And so I believe the Texans that are interested in their state and promoting business and free enterprise, lifting up teachers and helping seniors and getting drug prescription prices lower and so forth, would like to see a sitting senator that's been in Washington for now 18 years step up and do something rather than go to Mitch McConnell's office and ask Mitch McConnell how to vote on an issue. There are roughly 400 bills sitting in the Senate right now. So there's nothing been done other than this charade that's been taking place with the impeachment over the last a couple months or so.
And new candidates often face a very difficult time just getting their name recognition out there. How do you plan to address that, and then what do you hope people connect with your name?
Well, look, I think the biggest thing is that, listen, we're not taking money from people who started the opioid epidemic like John Cornyn is. We're not taking money from prisons or over at the southern border like John Cornyn is. His coffers now are up to $13 billion from all of these PAC institutions. If you look at the money that he's raising, a very small fraction of that is coming from individual donors in the state of Texas. We will not take money from any PAC, period. So this is a grassroots powered effort from individuals in Texas, 28 million, 16 million voters, about 4 will show up at the primaries on Super Tuesday. If they believe in my message, if they believe that I can go to Washington and legislate for the people of Texas, then I'm their guy, and I should be the one they vote for. You
described yourself as a Reagan Republican, but
yes.
I feel like I've heard a lot of Republicans say that.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, and how is that different from what's going on right now?
Well, so a Reagan Republican to me is someone that has extraordinarily conservative bona fides, and you're not going to see that in John Cornyn. John Cornyn is, in fact, I think he's bipolar. He goes to Washington and he acts one way, and he comes to Texas and acts an entirely different way. He acts like a Democrat in Washington. He votes like a Democrat in Washington when Mitch tells him how to vote. And then he comes to Texas about a year and a half prior to an election and acts like a conservative and tries to create a ruse that in fact he is. He's not. He simply is not. I don't like all these euphemisms that people use. Rhinos or whatever. I don't like to. But look, he's not a conservative Republican. We do have another senator that is. Senator Cruz is a Republican. I mean, a conservative Republican. Mr. Cornyn is not.
Let's get into some issues that you would, theoretically, if you were the United States Senator, you would tackle on health care. Are we doing the right thing now?
No.
What should we do?
Well, first of all, Medicare for all is not an option. The Democrats think the government is the answer for everything. And so, I like to be an inclusive person. I like to be, again, I'm not a politician, but, I'm not, as I said earlier, Washington is so politically charged where, it's almost like a football team. We got the Democrats over here and the Republicans over here, and both of them are can't get anything right. I believe Medicare for all is an absolute disaster. We can't even get Medicare that we have that works today right. How are we going to do that? And then we also mess up the 160 or 70 million people that are on private insurance. We put, if in fact we go say the Elizabeth Warren way, we put roughly 500,000 people out of work. So it's an absolute catastrophe. What I'd like to see done is I would like to see it move to the state level, and I'd like to see it regulated at the state level. And I would like to see, if I was in the Senate, the insurance companies collectively in the medical, just in the medical group insurance and individual insurance only, racked up over $48 billion in profits in fiscal year ending in 2019. I'd have every one of those CEOs sitting in front of a committee asking them, what in the heck are you guys doing with this? I mean, you're driving people out of business. And I still operate a business. And so we just got our renewals. I'm a very good example. I operate a smaller business. Our per family for a couple premium for my age was $1,650 with a $6,500 deductible. That premium just went up to $1,975 for two individuals my age. Let's call them in their 50s. Okay, so now I've got to pass that on to my employees. All right. So now it's just when you look at the profits that these insurance companies are making, and they turn around and they gouge Texans for and raising the rates like that. Yeah. Where is Senator Cornyn speaking out about that? We have seen time and time again where Cornyn is talking. All you got to do is look at his Twitter feeds about how he's got a drug bill that he wants to put forward. He doesn't have a drug bill. He's got a watered down version that works well for him, that doesn't violate the concept of Johnson & Johnson putting money into his campaign coffers. Johnson & Johnson is one of the main culprits that started the opioid epidemic in this country. And they're a main donor. He's taken well over $1 million from pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. And he's talking about a drug bill. He's not going to do a drug bill.
When you talk about let the states handle with it, I think people see that, and some people might worry, especially if I'm Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I have different rules and regulations in Texas than Oklahoma and Iowa and California. Doesn't that create a massive amount of confusion if all the states have different rules for different things?
How could it get any worse? How could it get any worse? I mean, look, I would just, so 2 days ago when I was on the phone with my CFO when negotiating the rates for our 12 employees, I said, because we have 3 employees in Florida. Yeah. So I said, so how does that work? So we're a Blue Cross Blue Shield. They said it's the same thing. So if they're covered here under the rate that we negotiate and the plan that we agree on, this is actually Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, which happens to be, for some odd reason, happens to be in Illinois, but it would be the same. It would be the same thing. So I think the idea of moving it to the state level and letting it be a state responsibility. Keep in mind that the government is in so many cases, they're not. The Democrats think the government is the answer to everything. It's not. I mean, the government really is responsible for military, for domestic and foreign, and keeping our country safe and so forth. Responsible for judiciary. But look, some of these things, the government just needs to get their hands out of. And so. Look, if I was a senator, taxes is the same thing. I mean, look, I think President Trump did a wonderful job of lowering corporate tax rates down to 21%, a step in the right direction. And I would say that the individual, you and I, as people who work, now we need help, right? So, I mean, I would like to see, and I'm sure you would as well, and I'm just going to pick a number. If you're making, $100,000 a year, you're likely given 38 cents to 40 cents of every dollar you make in taxes. And I'm sure you probably would, as would I I'd like to see more of my money that I earn come back to me, and you the same way. That's what I would legislate for the people instead of legislating with what's best for lobbyists, what's best for the party, what's best for Mitch McConnell.
Let's move to immigration real quick, because that is, the perennial issue that nobody seems to be able to figure out a long-term solution to it. What should Congress be doing right now, and the United States Senate doing right now that they're not doing?
Well, first of all, we should all be wrapping a blanket around President Trump and thanking him for what he's done. There's no president that's made as much progress at the southern border than President Trump. And he got pushed back from the House on the wall, so finally he found out a solution, a way to get through budgetary measures to start on the wall.
So you're a fan of the wall?
Is this absolutely? And although that's still not perfect. I mean, it's still porous. We now have learned. In fact, I was just over recently with a DEA agent, and unfortunately, that's not perfect. But what it does do, it's extraordinarily much better than what we've had in the past, and it's a step in the right direction. We can always get smarter about what we do in terms of trying to control the southern border. Phil, the biggest issue we have, it's not, we got the Dreamers, we got DACA, we've got people coming over illegally, that, it's a porous, line that just continues of these, illegal immigrants coming over. The biggest issue, Phil, we have is drugs, and they're coming into the country. We have, this DEA agent shared with me, we have 100 tons of metric tons of heroin that came into the United States in 2018. Now think about that. And so the other thing I said that doesn't even that's crazy. And so I said, well, so how is that being disseminated? He said, Mark, listen, I can't say much, but listen, I can tell you that these cartels have offices in the United States. And so, without giving too much of it away, he said, look, we're on them. And I said, well, listen, what about Mexico? Now President Trump has said that the cartels are they're terrorists, right? So doesn't that give us the ability to send in drones and blow up these, 100% of the meth that's coming in the United States comes from Mexico. It's not necessarily cocaine. Fentanyl is another problem, right? But so I said, so now why can't we just send in the drones and blow these things up? So you get into kind of a sovereignty issue. The Mexican government is everyone knows, this is no secret to anyone, it's a very corrupt place all the way up to the presidency. So you're going to have to get cooperation from the Mexican government in order for us to use our military to know where these meth labs are in Mexico that are feeding all this stuff back to our kids back in the United States, to send in drones and blow these damn things up.
Awesome. Mark Yancey, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Phil.